If you look at small economies, New Zealand, Singapore, Ireland, Israel, all of Finland, Denmark, all these countries, right? They've all achieved extraordinary things off a pretty flimsy base. And what they have achieved is they've managed to liberate the creative impulses of their own people. And I go back to that idea that I started with, that half of the Irish story is about what we felt like ourselves and how we moved to become a much more open society, and how that openness created the catalyst for people backing themselves, for people deciding to set up their own little companies, to do their thing. All of that is there. That's there for the taking. I mean, that's what's possible. Or you can just go through this decline that you're going through at the moment. Like that's the choice. You know, the Scottish decline vis-a-vis Ireland is so obvious economically, you shouldn't even have to go over that again. And it's so unusual because it never had to happen, but it has happened. So I think you just say, we could be this, warts and all, because we've loads of things to fix still, or we could just continue to be a concubine of London.
And you hear this consistently with people describing Boris Johnson as a man of the people. And I couldn't think of a poorer definition for someone like him as a man of the people. Is that kind of class system personified?
I mean, that fellow wouldn't last a day in Ireland. He really wouldn't. I mean, that type of creature. I mean, you'd take your children on the far side of the road if you saw them coming up to you.
What would you be saying to the Scottish government they should look for in that kind of 10-year horizon?
First of all, there's nothing to be afraid of with respect to independence. In fact, there's, from what I can see, it's almost all upside. What you do is, because as I said to you, it's how a nation grows up. It's how you walk tall in the world. It's like you're independent. You are a sovereign nation that deals with its own problems, figures out things. If things go wrong, it's your fault. Things go right, it's probably, you can pat yourself in the back, and you create a vision for your country, and that vision you can actually put together the structures to achieve that. So the first thing is that independent countries work, okay? That's the first thing, right? And they work extremely well. And Scotland is reasonably homogenous. It's amazingly well situated for renewable energy, for all sorts of areas. Then you can take, the Irish approach, maybe attracting foreign capital, all that sort of stuff. I think just go for it. But I remember going to Aberdeen and Edinburgh, particularly Edinburgh, and having these Scottish people who sounded English that I couldn't understand that first. And secondly, they all these weird names, they kind of first names that were second names and second names that were first names, like Murray Campbell or Campbell Murray. And I was like, anyway, but they were the last vestiges of the Scottish finance industry in the late 90s, right? It's still there, but it's not as important. And what I could never understand about Scotland was how the country wasn't like Ireland. It didn't feel dynamic. Didn't feel effervescent. It felt, pretty rich by European standards, pretty well off, but the renaissance, the cultural renaissance that I kind of expected to feel, I didn't, and I think that comes down to not being independent. I really do. Like, the thing about independence, it's like being a child. You make lots of mistakes. Sometimes you grow quickly. Sometimes you grow stunted. Sometimes you do stupid things. But you're a sovereign creature.
But can you think of any other ways when you're looking at the British economy that it seems so peculiar from anywhere else on the planet?
Everything's peculiar about the British economy.
In terms of where we are as the UK economy, it doesn't seem like there's many other economies that are like the British economy and relying so heavily on the idea of rentism and how inefficient and how unproductive that is an economy. Is that something you would agree with?
The UK is a rentier economy. There's no doubt of that. And what we can see is not just a rentier economy, but it's captivated by short-termism. Really captivated by short-termism. And what you can see is, if you look at, gross value added, I think the only part of the UK that actually has got a surplus is London. So the rest of the UK can't pay for itself. I mean, that's an amazing thing to say for a big, big economy. And of course, the rentier capitalism leads to corruption, the chumocracy, all that sort of stuff. This very,
which we're seeing now.
Yeah, which you're really seeing now. And